Hello and welcome back to Breakfast Daily on City TV. Just gone by was that amazing performance by Abrantier, the poet, and he'll be coming back to give us some more of his amazing poems. Now, though, we're going to talk about taxes and the importance of paying taxes. Cannot be understated or spoken more or less about. So last week we started a conversation, and we're going to continue this week why there's a need to pay your taxes and what it's going to be done with regards to the Ghana Responsible Tax Index. There's a dialogue that is coming up, and I've been joined in the studio by Dr. Alex Ampabing. He's a fiscal policy specialist with Oxfam, and Leonard Shankote, the coordinator of Tax Justice Coalition Ghana. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having us.
Well, okay, so how far with taxation? You know, the last time we you ended by saying that there was going to be a dialogue. Okay, now the Ghana Responsible Tax Index. What basically is this all about?
Okay, thank you very much again for having us here. The Ghana Responsible Tax Index, which we call the GRTI, is one key element of the Ghana Tax Dialogue Project, which Oxfam is currently undertaking in Ghana. The purpose of the tax dialogue, if I'll bring it quickly, is to sit down and have a conversation with companies, especially the multinationals and big corporations in Ghana, on the need to be tax responsible. And here, as I said last week, the conversation is about tax responsibility. And we want to explore some of the challenges and opportunities around corporate tax and how we can take advantage of some of the challenges and then put it in the form of opportunities to ensure companies can do more. So as part of getting companies to do more, what we have designed is what we call the Ghana Responsible Tax Index. So it's actually coming out of the Ghana Tax Dialogue Project. With the Ghana Responsible Tax Index, what we want to do is to get companies agree set of principles with the companies and on what responsible tax actually looks like. Okay. Here we are not really talking about tax transparency, paying and telling us what you've paid, but we want to take the conversation further on how responsible you are. So every year, we want to make it a yearly thing. That every year we will rank companies based on how responsible we think they are. Okay, so talking about ranking, yes. Now we have different companies, their strengths are different. How are you going to rank these companies based on the different strengths that they have? Others are large, others are small, even though, and is it only multinationals? Not only multinationals. We're looking at both multinationals and some large local players because they will make a huge contribution. Okay, so how are you going to rank these companies? Because I mean, basically, they all don't have the same strengths. Yeah. So how are you going to do this? Okay, we are designing a methodology on doing that. But there are some very basic elements which we can generalize. Then you will have specific industry sectors. For example, the way you will measure a telecom company will not be the same measure you apply to a construction company or to a retail organization. So what we want to do, the methodology is currently going on a validation process, and we're going to have the standard way of assessing, and then we will move a step further to have industry specific, and then we will have issues like the size, area of operations. But in terms of the things we'll be looking at, if I'll give you an example, if you take a multinational company, one of the things we want to look at is your how open are you on your tax policies? Are your tax policies clearly displayed on your website, for example? The incentive you will receive, because most of those companies are receiving incentives. Do you disclose your incentives? If you're operating in different countries, do we have contextual data of profit? How much profit are you making in Nigeria? How much profit you're making in Togo? How much profit you're making in the United Kingdom? So is this well clearly stated? Okay. And then the revenues you are generating, can you look at the revenue, the profit, the revenue, the cost, the profit, and is it in line with the taxes you're paying? Because most of the time, most of the companies use some creative ways that they will make majority of the profit in a particular jurisdiction, but they shift the profit to a jurisdiction which has low taxes.
Okay.
So you end up not paying more. So the GRTI will help us to evaluate every single company within the ranking index on those methodologies to see which one do we think is more responsible.
Okay, so he has spoken, Mr. Shankote, he has spoken about the assessment and how companies are going to be assessed. Now, can you tell us why the companies should really sign up to this GRTI?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's important because all citizens, including corporate citizens, hold the responsibility of honoring their tax responsibilities, because in the social contract that we have with the state, we as citizens have the duty of honoring, contributing to the taxpayers, and then that is where the government draw revenue to honor responsibilities such as our collective security and then also our welfare in terms of provision of public services. So if citizens are not honoring these responsibilities, then it will be very difficult for the state also to honor its part of the bargain. Beyond, I think this also helps with the corporate image and standing of the companies if they are seen to be to be going by what is expected
so more or
of
less
them.
It's going to be competitive.
That could be one of the results. That could be one of the results. But then if companies are fairly contributing their fair share to the state kitty, I think it tells a lot about their ethics and all that. So, and then beyond also, you realize that the infrastructure, the basic infrastructure such as electricity, water, and roads that companies need to be to make much impact and much profit will be delivered if they are contributing their fair share to the state's kitty. And then also the workforce of the companies. When all of us are contributing, including the companies, you realize that the headache that most companies have in terms of frequent demands from workers for loans, for fees, loans for hospital or healthcare and others could be limited. Because the problem why these exist is because we don't have functional public services. Most of us have very little or no faith at all in the public education system, because the money to fund that quality provision is not there or is not adequate. So whilst all of us are contributing our part, these services will be available, and then the pressure on companies and then the state also could be further reduced. So there's a lot for companies also as corporate citizens to derive.
Okay, so is this only targeting the corporate entity? Because we know that, say, the market woman, the cobbler, all these people, they're supposed to pay tax, but they don't really, it doesn't really come as it should. And so the state is really losing much when it comes to, I think I'll pose a question to Dr. Alex. So, I mean, why is this only targeted at corporate entities and not the other people, the market women, all these people on the streets?
Yeah, we have other programs or projects which are working towards building the overall tax compliance in Ghana to support the government's agenda of a Ghana Beyond Aid, which I think everybody is looking up to, a day when you wake up and you don't have to be relying on loans or grants or other donor support to fund our development. So we have other projects. Currently, there are some an ongoing arrangement to start something on property taxation. There are ongoing arrangements in designing or supporting other projects on, for example, supporting the district assemblies and municipal authorities on ways they can mobilize resources domestically. So we have lots of activities going. But the Ghana Tax Dialogue as a project is actually looking at companies.
Okay.
So here we want to see what can companies do. What can we together sit with companies, with the revenue authorities, have a dialogue to see what challenges are we having that companies probably are not doing what we should be doing.
Okay.
What support do we need? What obstacles are there that we need to clear? Have that conversation, no matter how difficult it is, to make sure companies are able to do more. So yes, tax dialogue is only for companies. Okay. But this conversation we are having in the studio, which is a tax dialogue series, actually has elements of tax compliance, elements of other sections, which definitely other taxpayers will.
Okay, so let's come to the tax compliance. Why are people not paying their taxes?
That's a good question. But I think before I even talk of why people are not paying, I think our emphasis should look on why are people paying.
Okay.
Because so far, if you look at a conversation in Ghana, or the GRA and authorities are more looking at why are people not paying. Yes, it's a valid question, but I want us to step back a bit, because the why of people not paying is not helping. Can we look at why are people paying? If you can understand reasons why people are paying, then we can build on that reason to actually improve compliance. So can we now start the conversation of engaging people? What actually make you pay your taxes in Ghana? And I believe there are people who will think tax morale is one of them. People believe morally is the right thing to do because they have the police service, they have the hospitals, they have the roads, so therefore have a reason to pay. So if we can give people the reason of why they are paying, now we can shift the conversation as to why they are not paying. And if I will come back to why people are not paying, I believe there are lots of, probably to take us like a year to finish that conversation. It will take like a year to finish that conversation. And I think one of the things I would say people are probably not so compliant is because I think the tax authority to some degree don't really understand the average Ghanaian taxpayer. I know sometimes it's a kind of a hard truth, but I wish I should have brought my computer for you to check something on the GRA website, for example. If you go on the GRA website, they have a section that are talking about the tax acts that they have, Act 2016, Act 2015. Of what relevance are this act to a taxpayer, the average taxpayer? I believe in the long term is an act that lead into or define what somebody should be paying or not. But that technical language on the website, how relevant it is to the average market woman, to the average person operating the shop who have no legal background, and those documents have absolutely no sense to them. So I think the starting point should be the tax conversation should be contextualized. You don't go to the market and start talking in a language that is corporate. You've lost them already.
Like the informal sector.
Exactly. So if you go to the informal sector, how is your conversation within the informal sector? How do you structure the conversation that is context and content relevant to the sector where you are? Most of times I've seen maybe the GRA cars going around with their horn talking about encouraging people to pay tax. We've tried that over and over again. Now, can GRA look at us and tell us the impact this is actually having? Do we sit down to review the strategies, or we just keep on doing the same thing because we believe that's the right thing? Most of times, the idea is we go for the taxpayers believing all of them don't want to pay. But that's not the case. People, you go to church, I go to church or mosque, people pay their tax, pay their tithes without being forced. You understand? The pastor don't force you to pay. You pay because you believe you get something out of it.
Okay, so if you could tell us, what is the GRA doing right? What is it not doing right with regards to tax compliance in Ghana? And what is the way forward?
I think it would be hard for me to just say what they are doing right or that they're not doing wrong, because that would be
because
kind of
you
a marking scheme. But in terms of, I can say probably on what they could improve.
Okay.
I think that would be the best angle to look at, because I know there are dedicated team within the GRA who are working very hard. But then, where can we improve? And I think the improvements will come on not only the GRA, but also the relevant authorities. Can we tackle the leakages? Can we make the tax compliance process very simple?
I think that's why they are trying to broaden it and involve the informal sector to make, because the people in the informal sector, I mean, they can really contribute a lot when it comes to taxes. So I know the GRA has spoken about it time and again. They are trying to involve the informal sector to broaden their tax net.
Yes. And I think one thing you also have to chip in, it's not only a GRA effort. It will take our general commitment as a nation. Most of the time when we vote for government, we have the idea, the average Ghanaian believes there's a big money sitting somewhere, government should go and use the money to do projects. But it doesn't work like that. When we vote for government, they have the intentions, but there's no money sitting out there. So if we don't contribute our quota, whatever plans the government has, no matter what government comes, whether PPP, KKK, or YYY government, nothing will change if we do not see tax compliance as a responsibility for us to enjoy the services that we so much want.
Okay, Mr. Korte, so what can be done to improve tax compliance in Ghana? What do you think, in your view, can be done?
Okay. Back to your question again, leading to the one that you just asked. If you look at an Afrobarometer report, this was in 2013 or so, yes. And that's on knowledge and attitudes to taxation in Ghana. And you look at some of their responses. About close to 58% of respondents are positively or favorably disposed to honoring their tax responsibilities. And that is if it will lead to better and improved services. Okay. So that is one. And I mean, the saying goes that, don't tell me, show me. People want to see. They don't want you to tell them what you are doing in your sonar reports and all of that. In their communities, they want to see evidence of improvement in school building. They want to see evidence improvement in water provision. These are some of the things that will encourage people to favorably respond. I mean, there are other jurisdictions that tax higher, that are above 50% of people's income.
Sometimes it's deducted from source, so people really do not have any option than to pay it.
Yes, and
is that not the case?
Yes, and there's some indirect taxes also in other jurisdictions, but still people are favorably inclined to comply because the services are evident and there is very little wastefulness in the expenditure of the tax revenue and all of that. So these are some of the things that